Welcome back to Arcane Answers. I'm Lara, and once again, I'm thrilled to be joined by Amanda and Sarah. Today, we're embarking on a profound journey into humanity's oldest and most enduring mysteries, the concept of the soul, specifically reincarnation and walk-ins. How are you ladies doing today?
Doing well. How about yourself, Blair?
Hey, not too bad. You guys do anything fun this week?
We were just busy. Oh, I got to go see Amigo the Devil in OKC with Kenny and Co. Uh,
Sounds awesome.
yeah, and
Devil, very spooky. Good on point.
but he's Amigo, so he's friendly. Um,
You're
but at one point, the sound system at the Tower Theater went on the fritz, and then the lights flashed. So there was a joke that there was a ghost. So he just grabbed the remaining working microphone, and we did a sing along in the crowd. It was pretty good.
Oh, that's really neat. That's fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed myself immensely.
How about you, Sarah?
Nope, all I did was work. Nothing fun
Okay.
this week.
All right. Well, that's cool. I didn't do anything either. So
I had to think real hard about that. All my weeks are starting to run together.
that's good. Well, I wanted to kick this off by exploring a related topic, but not quite reincarnation. It's more of a recent thing, and it's definitely gained more traction recently. And that is the phenomenon known as walk-ins. Okay, reincarnations and walk-ins both share that notion that our essence or our soul isn't extinguished when we die. Instead, it continues on its journey and perhaps moving to new life or learning new lessons or fulfilling new purposes. So, without further ado, I will take you into that now.
Doodly doodly doo.
Oh, no, I've been putting chimes in there, but I'm going to keep that one.
Take us away.
All right. So, what exactly is a walk-in? You may be asking. And at its core, it's the belief that a person's original soul can depart from their physical body and another one can come in. It's kind of like a soul swap, or I guess more like a soul replacement, because I don't really know what happens to the other person's soul. Just a new one comes in. Is like a new tenant moving into an already furnished apartment. Their belongings, I guess, are your memories. And so they get to take over your body. They remember everything that you remember, and then kind of move on with their new purpose. So believers frequently suggest that this shift occurs in the period of intense personal upheaval for the original soul, and then something happens, like a traumatic experience or a serious accident or whatever.
Like
and
a
then
near-death experience.
like an NDE, yes. And then this new soul comes in, and it takes over your life essentially. And so it immediately that raises the question is why would that soul choose to leave and the new one come in? Well, they think that maybe it's on a new mission, right? A higher mission. That's usually what they think about the new soul coming in, is that it's there to guide humanity in a new spiritual evolution or take a new consciousness to the planet. So it's like a grandiose soul coming in to help.
So it's like, hey, you're not doing a good enough job, so we're going to kick you out of your body and give your body this meat suit belongs to this soul instead.
Get your own meat.
Essentially, yes.
Huh. Okay.
That is a walk-in. A walk-in is you're not doing it good enough. Get out of here. I'm gonna go and bring you a new direction. So some people have said that this has happened to them, and that they know that they're the same person, but they know that they're different. And so people will describe them as, oh wow, they're way more happier now, and they seem more driven, and they're talking about woo shit. So
Maybe they just stopped dissociating.
yeah.
That's called antidepressants once they kick in.
Or it's just called I'm paying attention to you now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's or a midlife soul swap. I'm going through a crisis. I got a soul swap.
If I ever go through a midlife crisis, I'm just going to call it a midlife soul swap.
There you go. So
midlife crisis currently involves baby possums and
baby pot. Oh man, I've already done the cover art for this, so I probably won't add the possum on the cover, but it is so cute. It is a cute baby
really
possum.
cute. Yeah, I'm probably gonna get some sort of like weird communicable disease, but
You need to stop Googling.
It's fine. Most of them are curable.
Stop Googling.
I don't think communicable disease has the right connotation for me anyway.
Like tuberculosis or
No, I understand what you're saying.
No, I get it.
not like chlamydia.
That's not the that's the first thing that popped in
Yeah.
my.
Not that one.
No, that comes from koala bears.
Yeah, that's right. No, honey, I just went to Australia.
It's fine. I was handling koalas.
But anyway, so this most of this idea comes back from it's hard to bounce back from chlamydia.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, so we'll go from chlamydia to the New Age movement.
That tracks.
So there's this lady. I don't really know her. I know a lot of the woo people, but this one I don't. Her name's Ruth Montgomery. And in 1979, she wrote a book called The Strangers Among Us.
Ooh.
Yeah. And she posits that walk-ins are highly evolved beings who assume the bodies of individuals who are ready to depart. So, there you go. You're ready to depart. It's not like you're getting ousted, you know.
You just haven't died yet, but they're like, if you just want to kick off early, we'll just take this from here.
I'd like to think there was a discussion beforehand.
There absolutely was not. That first soul did not consent to being kicked out of its flesh suit.
No, I don't think.
Depends. What's next? What do I get to do other than?
That's fair.
It's like when you accidentally bump into somebody at the grocery store. I mean, literally bump into them. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, you're like astral projected, and they're like, mine now, sucker. But where was I? Oh, yeah. Yeah, then it takes us to Dolores Cannon. She is a hypnotist and researcher of past life regression. And she also has explored the concepts of walk-ins, which these people's credentials are bona fides. I'm not endorsing, but you might, and you might find it interesting. So Ruth Montgomery and Dolores Cannon, they're your gals for taking you to the one-way soul exchange. But I was poking around looking for more information on this, and I went to, of course, the best source of information on the internet, Reddit.
Of course.
And our spirituality user known as Serious Stock 9599, which birth year of children, right? Probably.
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah, don't do that, people. Do not put numbers in there, because then you're giving away more personal identification information than you think you are. But that's just a tip. They recounted their personal life experience during a soul exchange. They had an NDE, near-death experience, during a heart attack 5 years prior. They described recalling astral travel during the event, but the possessed have no conscious memory of the walk-in itself. So their body was out doing stuff while they were astral projecting. And every day, their everyday memories remained intact. And they noticed that the memories from before the heart attack felt like distant, somewhat unreal, and like scenes from an old movie. This is the new soul talking now. And so they're disassociating is what it is.
I was going to say, that's what it sounds like to me.
That's right. Because there is a notable, a noted phenomenon among people who've had heart surgeries and especially heart transplants of entire personality changes.
Yeah. Or like Phineas Gage, right?
Hmm.
He's the guy who got a pipe through his head and I guess became a whole other person. But
a pipe through your brain, your operations center makes sense, but
why the heart?
Right, the heart is a little bit different.
If you get one of those robot hearts, do you just become more methodical?
Yes.
Or a pig heart.
Asked and answered. There you go. Oh yeah, pig heart. It's no.
No.
I don't know. I just love eating cabbage with my face.
I really need some acorns to snuffle.
I'm just thinking about that scene in A Christmas Story where the little brother won't eat, and so mom has him pretend to be a pig.
Oh God. I don't remember that scene, but it sounds traumatic. That movie made me feel weird as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy I don't enjoy A Christmas Story.
That's fair.
One of those people.
Not one of those people.
Anyway, so this Redditor, his demeanor changed, and everybody's like, "Hey, you seem different. Like you got a pig heart." And they're like, but after that, they didn't really elaborate on how they felt like there was a acceleration in their spiritual journey. That's what they said, but they didn't like fulfill the rest of that. Like, yeah, so I'm way more spiritual now. What does that mean? I don't know. They didn't tell me. So yeah, that's the Reddit's anecdotal evidence of a walk-in.
So it wasn't like this crazy traumatic thing happened and she was like a whole nother person and decided to join a convent.
Imagine being shaped by your experiences.
Nah.
Yeah, well, okay. So, like, you guys are right. I mean, psychoanalysts are like, this phenomenon is not a phenomenon. This is just fragmented personalities integrating or disassociating.
Yeah.
It's a coping mechanism for, like, trauma. He had heart surgery, and then he disassociated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to be careful, though, because knowing my luck, I'd talk a bunch of trash about this phenomenon. Next thing you know, I'm somebody else.
Lara, I'm shipping her to you if she wakes up tomorrow and is a different her.
I hope I have
that would crush my daughter.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
like Amanda's biggest cheerleader.
I know.
We're best friends.
It's true. But yeah, so like the idea of the walk-in is undoubtedly interesting and raises a lot of questions about the soul, but also about the psyche. So I don't know. I like the idea personally. Like, like if there are ghosts, right, and there's still like astral forms, they're just like, I'm gonna bump this person out and take over. I think that's kind of fun.
So have you seen the show on Netflix called School Spirits?
No, I have not.
Highly recommend you watch it because it's right along this vein, actually.
I haven't seen it either, but I want to.
I've laid the groundwork with the walk-in phenomena, and now I'm going to turn it over to you, Sarah. I think that you're doing something adjacent.
I am. So I hadn't heard the term walk-in until you, I think, had sent it out in the text thread the other day. And I have a story that is very similar to what that whole thought premise is. So I looked into a gentleman by the name of James Jim Matlock. He's an anthropologist.
Matlock?
Yes, I know. I couldn't not do it. Matlock.
I'd be stuck on that.
Yeah. He was very hard to listen to, but I did watch a few of his interviews. They were interesting. Or he did like seminars. So anyways, so he talks about the processional soul theory. So he starts with talking about a guy by the name of Alfred North Whitehead.
Okay.
And his whole beliefs in reincarnation and the explanations to how, what, when, and why. But Matlock takes a little divergent on the subject. So Whitehead thought the consciousness streams survive bodily death, but that because sensory input from the body had stopped at death, they ceased to have experiences. So Matlock's theory takes psychic abilities into consideration.
Wait, like if you're like more powerful psychic, you can have a better afterlife?
No.
Oh.
But the explanation on how somebody could have the memories of a deceased person.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So Matlock suggests that a disincarnated consciousness would be able to perceive thoughts through clairvoyance, communicating with other entities through telepathy, and act on material world through psychokinesis. So a disincarnated agent or consciousness refers to the ability of a disembodied conscious stream to receive sensory cues and to act with the aid of psychic abilities. So if you have a kid who is much more sensitive to things around them, they're picking up on the thoughts of, thoughts about grandma that he never met. And so now all of a sudden he's talking about grandma and how grandma's favorite whatever was, her favorite color was blue, which is something you've never talked to him about before. So his theory is it's because this child is not psychic.
Channeling the
I don't know. I can't help you out.
I don't know either. This is really abstract.
It's really abstract.
Yeah.
The only PS word that was coming into my head was psychopath.
No.
And that's not right.
I don't think that's...
So basically, he's getting the thoughts from his parents. So instead of actually them talking about it and telling him about, grandma, he's picking thoughts out of their brain.
Weird.
Yes.
So it's not reincarnation. It's actually just mind reading ability.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Matlock talks about pregnancy and pregnant people on almost an uncomfortable amount of time.
Okay.
So looking back, I'm like, that was real weird because it was probably 75% of his little TED Talk thing.
It's so weird. There's like a little person inside them.
Right. So he talks about when somebody is pregnant, say they're craving cheeseburgers all the time while they're pregnant. He explains this with the fetus is actually giving those thoughts to the mother, and then once the fetus is born into a child, because they're no longer fetuses once they are. Anyways, mom no longer craves those cheeseburgers, but it's the kid's favorite meal. So it was actually the kid who was influencing the mother to want these things.
So super psychic babies.
Yes.
Okay. Where do they get their powers from?
That's a great question. So it's some of the things one of the theories he talks about is like a reincarnated soul is actually implanted as the fetus.
Oh, I see. Like like an old soul kind of theory.
Yes.
Wait, but that's just normal reincarnation.
Yeah.
Right.
Except they have psychic powers and want cheeseburgers.
I know.
I love cheeseburgers.
He keeps. Anyways, the whole pregnancy thing was it was a little bizarre, and it was just trying to put a weird woo-woo spin on normal things that happen to people during pregnancy, like cravings and weird dreams and things like that. He also talks about how a mother will like dream of a baby's name that they hadn't ever considered, and then the baby's born, they name the baby this name, and then find out that that baby's the reincarnation of their namesake.
Ah, so I see.
Yeah. So
was this guy an independent researcher, or was he affiliated with one of the...
Yeah, are there any schools of thought on this? Like,
no. I'm pretty sure he was just an independent.
Okay.
Okay.
When did he operate?
Oh, I don't have any of that.
I mean, is he a contemporary? Is he...
Yes.
Okay.
He is.
She's watching his TEDx. So
yeah, when I asked that, I was like, wait a minute.
He didn't actually do a TED Talk, but that's what I think of every time somebody gives one of those. He had a PowerPoint and everything. It was...
PowerPoint.
Well, do you know there's two? There's TED, right? That's the normal one.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's TEDx, which anybody can do. Anybody about anything. Like you could get up there and talk about pregnant cheeseburgers, and they will just let you do it, and then you have like you can be like, yeah, I gave a TED Talk on that.
That's kind of what we do here. We just
talk about pregnant cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that sounds fascinating. And I am looking at this guy, Alfred North Whitehead, and he looks like a puffy Cillian Murphy.
So
Cillian Murphy.
That's the guy that Matlock references a lot. So
right, Matlock.
Yeah, you want to look up Jim Matlock.
Jim Matlock.
Mm-hmm. So Matlock talks about how reincarnation or disincarnated consciousness can happen at conception, it can happen during pregnancy, and it can happen after a child is already born. So
Wait, like a ghost sperm gets in there?
no, like the soul magically floats into the mother's belly. I don't.
Oh, I see. Like, because
Yeah, I was
it's
born
not
that.
at conception when you start dividing. Obviously, it's when the baby develops a consciousness
Yes.
that the soul comes in. Got it.
Yes, when the soul pops into the fetus and decides it wants some cheeseburgers. So it can happen he talks about it being able to happen at any point in time. So before birth, after birth, into the teenage years, into the adulthood.
Oh, so there's like an overlap for walk-ins.
Right, but they never used the term walk-in. They used quote unquote temporary possession.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Kind of got an Abrahamic bent on it.
So can happen after a person is already born. Like I said, they had called it temporary possession or whatever. So he notes the case of Mary Laurence Venum as proof of this walk-in or temporary possession. So in 1877, Laurent suffered from a series of epileptic fits and would lose consciousness anywhere from a few hours to a few days. When she would wake up, she would talk about how she had gone to heaven and met angels, as well as met or visited with her deceased siblings. She was like 13 or 14 at the time. After some time, doctors told the parents that there were no physical issues with her and that nothing could be done, and they suggested that they have her committed to an insane asylum.
1877
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot the
was
time.
not a great time.
Yeah, it tracks. So, shortly after, the doctors are like, hey, you should probably just cut your losses. Good luck. They were visited by a man named Asa Roff, who explained that his daughter had suffered from similar ailments decades before. Mr. Roth told the family that as his daughter, whose name was also Mary, grew, these episodes developed into clairvoyant abilities. Huh. At the time, the Roth family thought that Mary was insane, and so they had her committed, where she died in 1865. So Mr. Roth was a big believer in like spirituality and all of that jazz, and convinced the Venum family to let Dr. E. Winchester Stevens visit.
Oh, never let a Winchester do things.
Never.
I've seen what they do with houses.
That mystery mansion. So the family agreed. They let this doctor come visit, and apparently during the visit, Laurence went into a trance and became possessed by the spirit of Mary Roff.
Okay.
So when Laurence woke up from this trance, she didn't recognize any of her family members. She kept talking about her parents, the Roffs, who were not present at the time. She was able to describe the home, where things were in the house, the family themselves, the property, all of that. And so...
This is an exciting story. I like this story a lot.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
So Mr. Venum asked Mr. Roth to come back. He's like, hey, my daughter woke up. She's saying she's your daughter. I'm really confused. I need you to come back to the house. So Mr. Roth comes back, and immediately Laurence is like, Dad, where am I? Why am I here? You need to take me home. So they allow her to go live with the Roth family for months.
Wait, what?
Yes.
What year was this again?
18...
Okay, that's good.
1877, 1878.
Anything after 18 would just be like, yeah, Industrial Revolution.
Right.
Yeah, they're doing weird stuff then.
Hey, this is your daughter now.
Yeah.
She's 13. She's a problem. Take her with you.
Yeah. I happen to have a schizophrenic daughter. Do you mind having her for a while? She's yours.
Right? She thinks she's yours. Sorry, trying to find my spot. So she ended up living with the Roff family for a few months while she was inside, their daughter was inside the body of Laurence.
Yep.
The Roff family was convinced that Laurence was the reincarnation of their daughter. And then,
What a tragic story.
one day, on May 7th, Mary announced to the Roffs that she would be leaving and Lorenzi's soul would be returning.
I'm
And
bored of this now. I'm going home.
so, yeah. So at 11 o'clock on May 22nd, Laurence returned to her body and Mary was gone.
Wow.
By all accounts, she was happy, healthy, and normal and no longer suffered from her epileptic ailments or spells of unconsciousness.
That is cool.
When Mary had taken over the ship, she kept telling them that I'm letting Lorenzo's soul rest and recover and get healthy again. And then when she's better, she'll come back.
Yeah, that's handy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it spanned anywhere from like 13 weeks to 20 weeks or something that she was inhabiting the body.
I wonder what Laurence's tale was while she was supposedly out of.
I should have looked into that more, but I didn't.
It may have been lost.
Well, Laurence talks about how after she got married and was in labor, Mary would take back over and she had painless births.
Well, that doesn't seem very nice. Like, I mean, it's great for Laurence, but poor Mary,
Yeah, but it sounds like Mary would just like jump in and be like, "Hey, man, I'll take over for now."
That's okay. That is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mary sounds awesome.
Yeah, Mary's a homie.
Yeah.
So that is my little snippet about some weird guy who believes in cheeseburger babies and a fun walk-in story.
Yeah, that is a fun walk-in story.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I want to believe in this stuff so badly. Like, 'cause,
Oh, yeah.
Like, an anecdotal evidence is not evidence, but
Correct.
it sure is fun. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, when you hear somebody's story, like a creepy ghost story or whatever, and you get that little hair on the back of your neck that stands up, and you're like, okay, that was enjoyable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got that in a little bit, not with the hair standing up, but like man.
Intrigue.
Yeah, if that were true, I want to hear more about this story. I'd watch that movie.
So it's a really famous, or a rather famous case in, I want to say Watska, Ohio.
Well, I just went with good old-fashioned scientific style reincarnation studies.
Boring.
I know. I'm sorry.
Somebody has to be the serious one of the group.
So I went with what is being studied at the University of Virginia School of Medicine, Division of Perceptual Studies. And so this was founded in 1967 after a grant from Chester Carlson to pay for Ian Stevenson to full-time study cases of reincarnation and to try to track down the former personality of the person proclaiming they're having these memories. So a little backstory on Ian Stevenson. So he got his degree in psychology and then later goes back to school for psychoanalysis. During the 50s, he was, or I guess late 50s, early 60s, he was one of the first researchers to study the effects of LSD and mescaline. So as you can imagine, I rabbit holed hard trying to find any sort of connection to our good friend MK Ultra, but I could not find it. But it was the first thing on my mind. So in 1960, Ian Stevenson published a paper on the evidence for reincarnation, which caught the attention of a famous medium, Eileen Garrett, who was the founder of the Parapsychology Foundation. She reached out to him to investigate a report of reincarnation in India, where he ended up locating like 25 cases, and then headed over to Sri Lanka and found multiple more there. Eventually, he caught the attention, too, of Chester Carlson, who was the inventor of the Xerox process, guy was just absolutely loaded. His wife was super into reincarnation. So he ended up providing this grant so that, like an endowment almost. I don't know, like exactly, like to the university so that Ian Stevenson could quit being the chair of psychology and found this division of perceptual studies.
Yeah.
So what the DOPS is what we'll call it from now on, studies is states of altered consciousness, near-death experiences, the neuroscience of psi like ESP and psychokinesis,
Yeah.
and then most famously, children who remember previous lives. So DOPS has studied over 2,500 cases of children who claim to have been reincarnated, and about 2/3 of those have been what they considered solved. Like they were able to find, from the information the children give them, they were able to find matching personalities that were corroborated by living firsthand witnesses, by documentation. Some of them, most of the children, because this does take place in kids between 2 and 5, usually they start forgetting between 6 and 7. 70% of them recall sudden or violent deaths, and a sturdy percentage of those have birthmarks attached to the violent deaths. So, for instance, they have a case in Turkey where the guy ended up shooting himself in the chin. He was a bandit. And so the new personality, he actually had a like hairless patch of like abnormal tissue under his chin, but they also found a corresponding match on the top of his head that would have matched the trajectory of the outgoing bullet. Some kids who recall like mangling accidents before death or having their fingers cut off while being murdered, they'll have birth defects of hand mutations.
That is insane. Like, which comes first, right? Do you look at your birth defect and no, because you can't be like, and then a bandit, took a knife through the hand, and that's me. And
yeah,
then they go and look it up, and they're like, yeah, there was a bandit known as Old Knife Hand.
Yeah,
good old knife hand.
Well, and so they've been able to kind of ascertain that the median interval between death and rebirth in these kids is about 16 months. Some of them are, 4 or 5 years later. Some of them are almost immediate from the previous personality. And a lot of them have what they call behavioral memories, which are fear and aversion. They'll reenact the jobs of the former personalities. So you'll get like these little kids who are obsessed to the point of like not being able to function with normal society, that they only want to play shopkeeper.
Yeah.
Like in detail. They want to sell you soda water for your tea or
snake oil.
Not snake oil.
Oh.
Well, that wasn't it.
Well.
Or, the very famous case of James Leninger, the kid who at, 35 months old starts talking about burning to death. No, it was earlier than that, even like 28 months. I don't know. He starts talking about being a pilot in World War II and getting stuck in the plane and burning. And the family around him, like they're watching this kid who would have these night terrors that involve his body acting like he's trying to fight off death. Just obsessive playing with his planes or creating a cockpit out of his car seat in his dad's closet. It was heavily publicized. And they were able to pin it down to a World War II fighter pilot who did crash. They were able to find from Natoma was the aircraft carrier that he took off from. They were able to find that. It was very specific information. And his parents were like Louisiana Christians that were super against the idea of reincarnation. So they had no idea where he was getting that from. There's also another famous case of a kid who was like obsessed with old movies, and the mom ended up one day going to the library and pulling out a book of old film stars, and the kid pointed himself out as this like really obscure actor. and he was talking about how, the other actors in the movies, he could name them, like, very strange, very compelling on some level, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that is really compelling. That I don't know, like I want to hear more about it because like the scars things really got me because it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like are they doing that like where they're associating like the child's how do you I don't want to say deformity, is that okay? Yeah, it's
It's a
probably all
birth
right.
effect. Just a birth effect.
Yeah, to and then prescribing that to something spiritual, but if they're also like, no, man, then we drink tequila and it tastes kind of peppery, and they're like, well, you shouldn't know that.
Right. Yeah. And so, well, when they do the interviews, so basically the families reach out to them, right? So they're not doing hypnotism, they're not looking for kids to try to give leading answers to for the most part. So got a kid, they keep talking about their past life, my parents before, my life before, my brothers before, like once. So the qualifications of the people they're interviewing is one of the criteria. So the accounts have to be firsthand of either the people they're talking about, the previous personality, or the child in the present state. How the interviews are conducted, they must be recorded, either so you can listen to them, make sure your notes were correct, or to take notes later. What was that?
And these are Stevenson's criteria that he's setting forward to study these children.
Yeah, because he had
Okay.
to develop it. Like, this wasn't necessarily.
This was uncharted waters.
Yeah, like he was interested. It stemmed from his interest originally in psychosomatic medicine. So like how your brain can impact your body, and then next thing you know, he's studying reincarnation. And then they go to look for documented proof where possible, like postmortem documents or hospital records.
Yeah.
And then they also have done a bunch of psychological tests on these kids to check and see if they're more susceptible to suggestions or and they're not more suggestible than other kids. So I don't know, it's kind of interesting, but you can go onto the website and you can see the different studies that they have open.
Yeah.
Not just for reincarnation, but for like out of body experiences, for near death experiences, things like that. So I find it incredibly interesting that they've been able to maintain, close to 60 years of continued funding for these projects because there is so much interest in it. I mean, everybody wants to know what happens next. Is this a real thing? So,
oh, absolutely.
And Stevenson's I watched a few of his things too.
Yeah.
He's a very interesting person.
He is, and
genuine.
Yeah. And then when he passed away, he was followed by Jim Tucker, who is currently leading, although I think he's getting ready to retire. But yeah, that he was just a normal psychologist, and like, I guess I'm doing this now. So
that's really interesting. I'm looking at the guy right now. He died in 2007, which like to me is like, wow, that's really recent. But like, if only he left a Houdini message behind.
So he did kind of.
No.
So at the university, there is a padlock that he had specifically set, I guess, in case he could come back and unlock it. But yeah, he set a lock for himself that.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And then Jim Tucker. So because that was more prevalent in Asian countries like India, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Ian Stevenson focused a lot on those countries. Jim Tucker, when he took over, was a lot more interested in U.S. cases and European cases where there wasn't so much suggestibility just from culture.
Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking when you were giving me the locations. I was like, okay, those are locations that aren't really the focus more in on reincarnation than Western countries.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, the two cases I gave you, the fighter pilot and the old-timey actor, those are both American cases. But
Okay.
there's a lot more. So it's just interesting how it has changed over the years.
But looking through his Wikipedia page here, I see that there's some concessions from critics, and I look down here and I see one of my favorite all-time human beings, Carl Sagan, and he did a little investigation into Stevenson on his own and said, like, maybe we need a little more empirical data. And he, of course, rejected reincarnation because he's a realist scientist. But he said, the phenomenon of alleged past life memories should be further researched. And that is a huge endorsement. I put that on the front of my frickin' book.
Yeah. Well, the thing is most of his work was just pretty much ignored. So, I don't know. He did have a lot of critics, and some of it's fair, but he was also trying to make scientific research out of something that is so intangible. You know what I mean? It's such a subjective and impossible to prove, but they were still trying to at least accumulate enough evidence to make it plausible. And I think that's a pretty amazing thing, like a pretty cool life mission to give this phenomenon, more shape.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. I like the idea that there's a scientific approach to this obviously spiritual phenomenon that is something that you can retry in like laboratory settings. What do they call that? I guess that's what they call that. But like that you can repeat the process with different children or adults, I suppose, that try to get some empirical evidence.
Well, it sounds like too they talk about how once a kid hits a certain age, they stop talking about that past life and kind of just forget that they ever were that person. Am I right?
For the most part, yeah. There's a few cases of murder victims that have extreme resentment. So they talk about a case of a kid who was born with a deformed ear, and his past life, he was shot by his neighbor while he slept in a field because the neighbor thought he was a rabbit, which is really weird. Anyway, so the neighbor ended up spending some time in prison, and when he got out, he was kind of like a booze peddler.
Yeah.
And the kid would throw rocks at him trying to break his bottles and like just wanted vengeance because he remembered this man as the guy who killed him.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. And apparently, so from the story, and I got this from one of the lectures that's available on YouTube. But apparently he went into the Turkish army after that, and a plastic surgeon crafted him an ear. And after that, most of his resentment like dissolved. And so when they talked later, he's like, yeah, I'm pretty much over it now. Like,
but he went into adulthood with it.
He did.
Just because he was so angry.
Yeah, he was so angry.
That's so interesting. Yeah, that's a fascinating topic, and I think I'm going to probably go down that research.
You should. I highly recommend it because it's just such a cool topic, and it's the way it's presented is to me pretty credible, even if it's, I mean, just because it's credible doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but I feel like the way it's presented is done honestly, so they honestly believe what they're telling you, presenting as evidence.
Right, and I like that, and I like the fact that it's still being researched. That's really neat. So, like, I'm going to definitely look, into what's being done now. Like, what can we do with 2025 technology, to research this more on children? Like, is that scar tissue, or is it like, just a malady or deformity? Like, what, or like parallel research. Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. I just find it really cool.
Yeah, no,
it's really fascinating.
And so they're the premier university that studies that, but as I was looking for other universities that study things, there is a parapsychology unit at the University of Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And there is several smaller programs, not for reincarnation, but for that parapsychology, like University of Arizona. Iceland does some.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like multiple universities all over the world studying the various parapsychology. And just consciousness is a huge field of study right now. Just why do we exist?
Well, ladies, we're going to have to go back to school.
I know. I'm so excited.
I'm in.
We'll get our parapsychology degrees.
Call at 207-591-4443 and leave a message on what you would like to hear us chatter about.
And I think that's going to do it for our show. So now that we've got our souls back in place and you can sleep with some cold iron, because next week we're going to be talking about the Fae folk.
Ooh.